Good morning. NATO and the Europeans are waking up to the same problem that we Americans have had for decades. We spend a lot of money on defense and don't get anything for it. Our military contractors make money, and weapons factories in the rest of the world make things their soldiers need. This is the chief of NATO who says that Russia, one country, produces as much ammunition in 3 months than all of NATO, 32 countries, produce in a whole year. It's not a problem of money. Last year, Russia spent $145 billion on defense. European defense spending was 3 times that, $457 billion. That's Europe, and doesn't include the almost $1 trillion in Pentagon spending. He says that Russia is using Chinese technology to build everything faster and cheaper, and Europe needs to do everything radically different. Mr. Ruddy says that the alliance is way behind, things are getting worse, and Russia is speeding up, not slowing down. NATO's economy combined is 25 times larger than Russia's, but Russia builds more ammunition than all of NATO. Euronews did some fact-checking, concluded the NATO secretary is right about everything, but there are some signs that the gap could be closing. If that last bit is supposed to cheer us up, Western taxpayers who are wondering where our taxes are going, it won't last long. Moscow has vastly increased production and did so in a very short time. They multiplied their manufacturing of artillery rounds by more than 11 times in 2 years, according to estimates by the Estonian intelligence service. Bain & Company did their analysis and concluded the same thing. And Bain's report pointed to an even deeper problem. The ammunition Russia uses is 4 times less expensive than the ammo our companies like to build. $1,000 a piece versus $4,000. Somehow even the North Koreans have more artillery shells laying around to lend to their friends next door. South Korean intelligence says that 12 million rounds have been sent so far, and the Wall Street Journal saw satellite imagery that confirms huge new volumes of production in North Korea and shipments Russia's way. By comparison, Europe and the US combined for 1.2 million shells per year, compared to Russia's 4.5 million. So that's about what Ruddy said. But now we've got North Korea to worry about. If it's true they just loaned their Russian buddies 10 years worth of NATO's production of artillery shells. NATO then knows that there is a huge problem and have set some targets to ramp up production in Europe to 2 million rounds per year this year, 2025, while the US set a new target of 100,000 rounds per month. Remember again that these shells are costing our taxpayers 4 times more than what the Russians pay. And this part's important too. Setting targets doesn't mean they're going to be hit. And in the past they have not been. The EU promised to send Ukraine 1 million shells last year and didn't make it. Kiev needs 200,000 a month just to keep its head above water, and NATO is far behind, still struggling to get its ammunition industry going. There's a severe shortage of explosives, and there's just one factory in Poland that makes TNT. China has strict export bans on antimony, and defense contractors everywhere are scrambling around looking for sources for that. So we are treated to stories like this one from November. Lithuania announced a sizable project to bolster its defense capabilities. Sizable means big. Cutting-edge production facility for 155 millimeter artillery. It will begin production in mid-2026 and will have the capacity to produce tens of thousands of shells per year. So we know it's under 100,000 shells a year, or they would have said so. But let's pretend they will make 100,000 shells per year. At 120 years of full production, this plant in Lithuania will finally equal what North Korea already had, extra, in surplus, to help out their Russian friends. This analysis here we like, from last August. William LaPlante is an official in acquisitions and says that NATO weapons makers aren't doing a lot of weapons making. The defense industrial base is unimpressive, especially to the guys who work in it. Russia builds more ammunition, more rockets, more tanks, despite spending 1/14 what the NATO alliance does. Two strong reasons. The United States and NATO are not taking the war very seriously compared to the Russians. And the contractors for the Pentagon make money no matter what happens. The military-industrial complex loves the big programs that cost a lot of money. The F-35, Gerald Ford-class aircraft carriers, the big missile systems. They're super expensive, they're always late, they're always over budget, and nobody cares. Our military leadership doesn't seem to have its priorities quite right either. The Army cut back production of artillery shells by half to 6,200 per month just a few months before the Ukraine war began. But it's hard to imagine even hitting those lower targets. The plant that was supposed to build them is 10 years behind schedule, while its cost doubled. In other words, very late and way over budget. In other words, just like everything else we do. That facility in Lithuania, this one in Virginia, when we finally do get the bricks laid and hire some people to start screwing bombs together, we need China and India, other important friends of Russia, for the materials and the chemicals to build them. Add all that up, if everything goes according to plan and we get the facilities built, and for some reason the Chinese and the Indians allow us to buy what we need to make the artillery shells that can be used against their friends in Russia, total production is 2 million per year by the end of 2025. But Russia's at 3 million. The plan sounds good in theory because that's all it is. But the production rates we announce never happen. And by the end of 2025, the war in Ukraine may be over. No forward thinking and a defense industry that thinks only of profits. August 2024. This one aged pretty well. Dragon boat racing in Hunan. Be good.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Father, thank you for this precious brother who has come.